Is it possible, Zach, to be cash flowing day one with only putting 5% down? Let's walk through that.
Oh, it sounds too sexy to be true. It almost sounds too sexy to be true. It is very possible. I can count on 0 fingers right now how many 20 plus unit buildings that are listed on the market are listed at a no-brainer price, can't lose, without knowing much about the building or how we could put together financing. So I just think it's really important for people to understand burning the bigger projects, the numbers are sexier. I get all
Yeah.
my money back, maybe plus some, and I still keep an asset that's cash flow positive. Like, hell yeah. But it doesn't come without risks.
I think you'd be really hard pressed to go to your boss today and say, I want $100,000 raise for the next 10 years. But this is one way you could make this deal work so that it produces 100 grand of equity over the next 10 years. And again, I think it relates a lot to that time preference. And I think it relates a lot to actually taking the action without discounting the analytics. I mean, you need to know that the numbers will work. But I think
Yeah.
there's a really nice Venn diagram there about the action taker and the analysis paralysis guy who's just spreadsheeting this out and going, 45-year AM, I'm never going to pay it off. All right, welcome back to the Canadian Real Estate Channel. I'm Adam J.D. Martin, your host, and today we have Zack from Phipps Brittain here to walk us through a $6 million purchase with only 5% down that's cash flowing day one. And I really think that's a fantastic subject for us to jump into today, as I am currently looking to refinance an older purchase that I made as well in a multi-unit. And so today's the perfect time to talk about refinancing, getting new financing, and getting purchases on great big multifamily buildings. Is it possible, Zach, to be cash flowing day one with only putting 5% down? Let's walk through that.
Oh, it sounds too sexy to be true. It almost sounds too sexy to be true. It is very possible. There are other deals out there right now like that. They are rare though. You know, real investors know, regardless of whether you're investing in real estate or anything else, good deals do not grow on trees. And you got to be willing. You got to be willing to think outside the box, and you got to be willing to ask a ton of questions and collaborate and look at deals in a million different angles. That's really what led us to getting this one under contract and closed with the 5% down, and just figuring out ways that deals make sense, and then figuring out how ways to negotiate that with the seller. It's a ton of problem solving. So we're going to get into the financing of that, why we financed it that way, why that made sense for the building, the asset, and us and our investors. And then also just like go through a quick refresh on how to find deals. A lot of people come into my world, asking for deals, which is great. I love finding deals. It's awesome. There's money to be made. It's a ton of fun. It's interesting. It's a little different every time. But ultimately, finding good deals isn't something that just happens for no reason or out of the sky. There's a lot of different things you can be doing. Figuring out what you like and what's going to give you the best opportunity for the best deals is also important. So we're going to go over a quick refresher on how you guys and girls can be finding deals out there. And then I got quick hits for Waterloo Region. Listen, we are still very active, whether we're selling and or investing and partnering with people here in Waterloo Region real estate. So it's really important for us and our people to stay updated on what's going on. I got some data on the general market. I also have some quick hits on the freehold market, condo market, and some interesting sales data on multi-units, especially multi-units that have been on the market for the last 60 to 90 days. I think you and I, like you said, you're, looking at a refi for a building you purchased before. A lot of people here on the channel are getting into or are looking to build within the multi-unit space. Reliable data on that space is tricky to find because a lot of it happens off market as well. So we'll look to our MLS data as well as some of our personal experiences to share with you guys at the end of the video. If you want the data, just jump to the end of the video now. You guys want to see how we're doing this $6 million deal though. Let's get into that. I'm going to just flip up real quick. If you guys do want deals, though, investor hot list at phippsbrittainrealestate.com. Go to the contact page. My email is right there on the screen as well, and it will be in the description. If you have specific deal criteria, if you are looking to optimize your portfolio or you have questions about your real estate you already hold here in Waterloo Region, send me an email. We have lots of people that come through our network. If we don't have somebody readily available that can help you with something, I bet you we know somebody that does, and we are like sharing contacts. I don't know, you're still in your 30s. I'm a young guy. I'm 34 in July. I'm going to be in business here in Waterloo Region for another 20 years while the kids are growing up. So you guys want to make some friends. You guys want to be around somebody that's got experience and contacts here in Waterloo Region. Don't be a stranger. Get on the Investor Weekly hot list email, and that goes out every Wednesday or Thursday. So get on top of that, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get to that $6 million deal, though, baby. So, property features for you guys and girls that didn't see the previous video. If you guys didn't watch last month's update and you want a little bit more context on like what this building is, the description, kind of the numbers, go back about halfway through that video. We start getting into the goodies. Quick and dirty, 34 unit purpose built multi unit, a 2-story walk up, or 2.5-story walk up, a 3-story walk up, 23 2 beds. The rest of the breakdowns there. Exterior parking, on site laundry that's shared, boiler heat, flat roofs. Got some stuff that we can do right away to kind of increase the value, like some of the parking spaces aren't accounted for. There's a couple storage rooms that haven't been used that we're putting in storage lockers in. And there's a lot of kind of small little things we'll be doing over time to improve the building, but also increase our income. That's just a breakdown of the building right there. And actually, Adam, if I'm not mistaken, we have a video that just came out of the tour. So if you guys want to know what the building looks like, you want to see the mechanical systems, you want to see the unit layouts, you want to see the differences between the big 2 bedrooms, the small 2 bedrooms, what types of rental income we're expecting for these, different areas of the building that we're going to be dumping some capex into to increase our ROI. That would be a good kind of starting point if you guys are just curious what it looks like, or you're just starting to get into the bigger multi-unit space. It's a different ball game than just single family homes or duplexes and triplexes. So if you guys want to take a look at that, check out the video now. Quick breakdown. That was the purchase price. Our cost per door, we were just over 6 million. Our cost per door was 181,000 for this location in London. We felt that was very fair. And I think maybe Adam, this would just be that reminded me to just remind investors out there, fair deals are still good deals. Like
Yeah.
you don't need to get something so egregiously under the average cost per door or at such an egregious cap rate. Like there's so many. I cannot say a deal is a good deal based on one metric. I just can't. Like at face value, maybe like, oh, they got, a multi-unit in KW for 150K a door. Like at face value, that sounds pretty freaking nice. But like there's so many other pieces that make it a good or a bad deal. And what you need it for as an investor is also really important. So if you guys want to pause on this and just kind of like do your own quick math, compare it to some deals that you're looking at, or just for your own knowledge, like feel free, pause the screen now, take a look at it. Long story short, our net was 324 a year. Your caps, about that 5.25, 5.2, and we financed this with 95% loan to value. We took a 45-year AM and we settled on just under a 4% interest rate of 3.95. That's a fixed. This is really what I wanted to get into. So when you guys are looking at deals, and Adam can jump in here too, especially with experience in, going through the refi or starting the refi process on some bigger multi units, is it's really common for people in Southern Ontario to look at properties, especially larger multi units, only as a BRRRR, primarily because the gap between the rents that it's generating now and the rents that it should be generating in conjunction with the purchase price the sellers are willing to take, that little matrix is really fucking tricky, pardon my language, to make work. It just
Yeah.
is. So that's why creative financing, that's why direct to seller, that's why like negotiating is just so freaking important. Problem solving is so freaking important because I can count on 0 fingers right now how many 20 plus unit buildings that are listed on the market are listed at a no-brainer price, can't lose, without knowing much about the building or how we can put together financing, right? It's a competitive space. They're desirable assets. So
Yeah.
a lot of people, Adam, are looking at just straight up BRRRRs. So can I put 20% down, take a little bit more expensive financing? I got a turnover units. I got to either renovate tenants or I got to add new units or build new units. And then I'm going to refi. And if everything goes perfect, I get all my money back. So this was how I built my portfolio on burring up to this
Yep.
point. That is 95% of the deals that I've done. But the burrs that we were doing were single family homes to duplexes or triplexes. So one, the amount of capital in isn't as much. Two, I don't have any tenancy risk, and that is huge. I don't have any tenancy risk because I do not need to renovate or evict or work with any existing tenants. I'm buying a property vacant. When it's done, it's vacant. So I can sell it, I can tenant it, or I can keep it, right? So I just think it's really important for people to understand burring the bigger projects, the numbers are sexier. I get all
Yeah.
my money back, maybe plus some, and I still keep an asset that's cash flow positive. Like, hell yeah. But it doesn't come without risks. So the options we were looking at when we were acquiring this 34 unit building was we would be about a 30 grand a month bleed. So we're just carrying the property. It's going to cost us about 30 G's for a month for about the 12 months the project was going to take us. And what it came down to was there was too many things out of our control that could go wrong that would hurt our ability to actually exit via refi. And our only good exit was a refinance. So if we weren't able to refinance it, we'd be bleeding less, but we'd still be bleeding. If the refinance took too long, all right, that's extra cash out of the pocket, and that hurts our ROI. So we had a real hard time, not necessarily being confident, but a real hard time taking on that risk for the level of return and the amount of cash that was going to be coming out. So what we looked at was, okay, if we just wanted to be less risky, how could we still get a good return from an asset? We liked the building. Long story short, we liked the building. We liked the location, we liked the size, we liked the cost per door, but we couldn't really solve the how do we finance this and still make it make sense short term and long term. And so one of the weaknesses of the building we talked about in the previous video. And if you guys are considering like acquiring these types of buildings and you don't have a ton of experience, Adam and I had some good back and forth just on like how to really look at these types of deals. So take a look at that. But for this one, the big weakness was we couldn't, we had underperforming rents, right? So the relationship between the the risk and the return, that is ultimately what we are doing as investors. And so the initial question, regardless of the financing option we were choosing, isn't just what the net result needs to be, but it's like, how can I put the least amount into a deal and make the most money out of the deal? Like just to oversimplify, least
Yep.
down with the most positive cash flow. And so the way we were able to figure it out was this. The big weakness to the property was there's a handful of tenants, legacy tenants, that had been there for quite some time. That was a significant gap between their rent and what market rent was. Well, we looked at the CMHC affordability program, and that allowed us to put the 5% down with the 45-year AM. Now, if people have questions about like how that works or our experience with it, we worked with Mr. Perez at a Synergy Mortgage for that property. Free plug. And we had done a ton of research about the CMHC affordability program beforehand, but the idea was a little scary because it's like, hey, my whole mindset was maximize, maximize, maximize. Well, this deal was more minimize risk while still getting a nice return. And why you can get such a nice ROI is you're just in a deal that's sizable for so little down. So your ROI and your cash on cash just gets sexy because you're just in the deal for so little cash. So the thing that was the kind of the icing on the cake wasn't just like, oh, our ROI and cash on cash is still pretty nice. It was I get all my money back if I do nothing. If I just keep the building as is, we had a CapEx schedule, we had our maintenance schedule, and like we're not just not investing any money into the building over the next 5 to 10 years. Like there's going to be significant spending on the building to maintain the condition or to improve it if there are opportunities to generate additional income. But like without anything crazy happening, good or bad, money back around year 7. as is. That isn't even getting top end market rents. That's keeping the below market rents the same, just doing your maximum increases every year. That's standard practice. And that was like oh, so I could buy a $6 million asset in a growing city that's self-sustainable in Southern Ontario that I expect to grow like crazy in the next 10 years, next 20 years for 5% down. And it's going to make me a few G's a month as is. And that's with, you know, 10 to 14 of the units paying significantly below market rent. Okay. And what really I think needs to change is just people's mindset along just real estate in general, especially investors who really want to take it seriously. And to get into that, it's a little bit more conceptual than it is the nitty-gritty of financing. But like, listen, you're in the business of housing people. No part of me wants to kick somebody out. I don't. I don't. I like people, right? But like, I don't want to kick people out if I don't have to. If I can house people, reduce my risk, and still get a good return, hell yeah. That's what I want to do. And I think people get really caught up in the I need the max return at all costs. Well,
Yeah.
when you start taking on risks like tenancy risk, like huge capex, like expensive financing, that's where you run into mistakes. Rule number one is to just not lose money. And like by doing this type of financing, I don't need to rely on any sort of tenant turnover. I don't need to spend a crap load of money in the short term or really in the long term because I'm just going to maintain the building as needed as I go. So I don't have huge outlays of cash in a short period of time. And if I do the bare min in terms of increasing the income of the property, I get all my money back and I still own the asset by year 7. All right, sick.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
And again, the
So,
bare minimum in this case, right, was like adding some parking and like adding like paid parking, a little bit of storage, like get a unit turnover or two as it naturally comes up. And I think like those things are so manageable to do on an asset like this that's going to provide you those types of returns. And I think you mentioned something really interesting there when you mentioned tenancy risk and used the term rent eviction earlier. And that's a really interesting concept. And I know a lot of people that have watched this channel or have invested in real estate have either done a rent eviction or considered doing a rent eviction. And I just need to like really stress what Zach's saying here. Like, do you know the penalties for doing a rent eviction if you improperly serve the LTV's paperwork and bust it as a corporation? It's $250,000 maximum fine. As a person, as an individual, I believe it's 50,000 is the maximum. Now, of course, nobody ever gets hit with a maximum penalty, but let's just think about that type of risk, right? And all you have to do to incur that type of penalty is kick somebody out, renovate the unit, and then rent it out to somebody else without giving that person you originally kicked out the option to come back at the same price to that new unit. And so that's brutal, right? And it's so easy for them to find out that you did that. So those types of risks are really, really, really risky. Like it seems on the face value that that's something I could get away with. You can't. It's way too risky. The risk is not worth the reward. So this type of investing strategy, and this all has to do with time preference. What Zach's talking about is having a low time preference. I'm going to invest now with the idea that in 7 years from now, I could get my money back with doing minimum work. This is not like I'm going to buy this $6 million property, evict everybody on day one, throw $300,000 at the problem, and all of a sudden double the value of my building in the next year. It's just not going to work like that. And I think having a low time preference is where you find serious real estate investors.
yeah, the low time preference is such a good way to put it because it's just like it is a preference, but at what cost? Whether it be risk, whether it be capital, whether it be effort, whether it be difficulty. And I don't know, just doing the right thing is always the right thing. So if I'm going to be, trying to skirt the gray or the black lines of rent evicting, of bullying tenants, whatever terms people want to use for these things, like I just think that if I could make a good return and I can own a good asset and I don't have to displace anybody, sick. Like I'm down for all of those things. So here's where it gets fucking cool. So you're thinking, oh, well, Zach, I'm not really a boring long-term buy and hold investor. I need something a little bit more. I need a way to kind of insulate myself or get a margin of safety. or raise the value of the property. Low risk and great return. So I'm cash flow positive on day one with 5% down. I have an extra couple hundred K in CapEx funds ready to rock and roll for some immediate issues that we need to take care of by the spring and the summer. We got already that taken care of. Well, what happens if one of my affordable units turns over, right? To get the affordability metrics to meet that, you get audited every year. You got to prove that those units are still affordable. Well, that's fine. But what if I have, for example, somebody paying me 800 bucks a month, but the max that they could pay for an affordable unit is 990. In London, for a two-bedroom unit, it's 993. So I need a specific percentage of my units paying me 993 or less base rent. So if buddy that's paying me, say 700, 750, whatever it is, all of a sudden they leave for whatever reason. Okay, well, I have a gap between what they were paying me and what the max affordable rent is for that specific unit. Well, right now there's already almost 2000 a month in gap between the affordable units and the max affordable rent that I could charge them. Okay. So the chances that I probably get most, if not all of that in the next 5 to 10 years is fairly high. I should be able to recoup most of that. If I'm able to increase what they pay now to the max affordable rent, which is still super affordable, under $1,000 for a two bedroom in London, super cheap. That's 24 grand a year. On a cap rate basis, when I go to refi this in year 5 or year 10, that's 480 grand just for the affordable units. Half a schmilly. Thanks for coming out. And it gets better. The other units that are not capped to what would be affordable rent, I could charge market rent for those. The existing tenants that are already filled, no vacant units. This is just the people that already live there. If any of those turn over, or if all of those turn over, let's say, if all of those turn over, I got about another 2,100 a month in extra room. Okay. So for example, let's say I have somebody paying 1,200, but their unit renovated once it's all done with a car parking or two, it's worth 2 grand. That's 800 bucks a month from just that one unit that I make. So hypothetically speaking, in the next 10 years of us owning this property, if I have, and most units turn over every 3 to 5 years ish. These will probably be a little bit slower because some of the units they're very under rented, so they'll be more resistant to moving. That's fine. I got the property for at least the next 10 years, ladies and gentlemen. We have about a million in room just in the gap to market rent in value. So if the building doesn't appreciate at all, if rents don't change over the next 10 years, I have about $1 million on the table that I can raise the value of the property just through the gap to the market rents and just to the gap to the affordable rents. So I was like, well, shit. That's not so bad, Adam. I don't hate that. I don't hate a million in equity just for raising the rents, what they should be anyway, over the next 10 years. Not the next month, not the next 10 months, the next 10 years. I got so much time to maximize this when we're starting getting ready for that refi. And then the last point, well, second last point, CMHC is also likely to raise what is considered affordable rents. That is based on
Yeah.
2019 census data. So they do a census data search, or they do a census data research. They say, here's the median incomes, here's the average incomes. CMHC, it's a crown corp, so they're going to base all their data and all their metrics off of the data the government collects. Well, back in 2019, median incomes were different than what they're at now. I would assume
Yeah.
they're higher now. Not much higher, but I assume they're higher now. So if incomes are higher, then what would be considered affordable will likely also be higher. So we didn't take that into account because we don't know what those numbers are yet. We've heard whispers that that information is going to be coming out this year. I'm not relying on that. That's more just a sexy little icing on the cake. That if affordable rents are increased, that's just more room for us to raise our affordable units. And another awesome part is this: is if any of the affordable units do turn over, do you know how easy it's going to be for me to find an unbelievably good
Instant.
tenant
Instant.
instantly? So
Yeah.
no
It's
vacancy risk,
virtually zero vacancy. Yeah.
right? And
Virtually no
God
vacancy.
forbid, exactly. So God forbid we have somebody in a position that, may be qualified, but just can't afford to pay current market rents. whether they have guaranteed income, whether they have cosigner, maybe it's somebody that's working at the hospital that's close by, maybe it's a mature student. Like there is so much room to make this deal work without taking unnecessary risk for us. And that was just such a good mind shift for us. Like these isn't the only type of deals that I'm going to be doing moving forward, but a couple more of these under our belt, like I wouldn't be complaining about at all. Like this isn't, this isn't the get rich now game. This is the get rich for sure game. And I am getting a great return while still taking very, very little risk. And I just wanted to end kind of this conversation. I want to get your notes and your feedback as well, but just for those of you investors out there, just like mutually beneficial ways to work with and help your tenants isn't always a bad thing. Like, I think that the tenant and landlord world gets painted with very extremes on both sides. Majority of landlords and tenants get along just fine, but the
Yeah.
bad overshadows the good. There are so many mutually beneficial ways to increase the income of the property over time. But if you have a short time horizon, it's going to be very difficult, right? Listen, a lot of the tenants that are paying below market rent there, they've been there for a long time. There's lots of things that could likely be improved. So listen, if we could come to an agreement to, get rid of the carpet that's been there for 10, 20, 30 years, could get a new countertop on the kitchen, put a new toilet or a new sink vanity in the bathroom because there hasn't been a new one in there in 40 years. All right. In exchange, we need a little bit more to cover that cost. And if it still meets the metrics and it's still within what they can afford, great. Awesome. We
Yeah.
make a little bit more money to offset the costs of updating your unit. You get to live in a better quality unit. You're happy. I'm happy. Yippee. Yippee. So, a big conversation that we've been having with a lot of investors, Adam, is just like how to optimize existing holdings. It's been very difficult for investors to make sense of the market these days and find good deals because good deals are extremely rare to find. So, if people have questions, actually, do I have it? Yeah, here we go. If people do have questions about like how to optimize their portfolio, or if they have questions on like how the affordability metrics work with CMHC, how CMHC lending works, how construction lending works, like that has been pretty much all we've looked at for the last 2 years because we see opportunity in two spaces right now. Multi's kind of over that 15, 16, 17 unit size, right? And smaller developments. The bigger developments are extremely tricky right now. It's a space that's just too big for me as well. Let's be honest with each other here. I don't have, tens of millions liquid to play multiple options at the same time. I'm just not there. But smaller developments gets rid of your tenancy risk, right? Bigger existing multi-units, if you can get financing that makes sense, you can avoid the tenancy risk or you could use it to your advantage and still get a good ROI. So Southern Ontario is in this weird place where the assets are desirable, but making them make sense in the immediate short term is very tricky. So we're seeing a lot of people not focusing on acquiring, but focusing on optimizing their current
Yeah.
portfolio because new acquisitions are just really tough to make sense of right now. So if people have questions about this specific deal, like I'm happy to share more details. There's obviously some things that I can and can't share on a public YouTube video here. We have partners, right? There's some personal information on some of these numbers and some of these deals that obviously I can't share on a YouTube video. But I'm happy to, in a more private setting, have more detailed conversations, especially if people out there are looking at specific deals or looking at specific advice on deals they're considering or already own. Um, that's where you're really going to squeeze all the juice out of it. So my email's there. I'm an open book. Adam, any questions or anything to add kind of on the maximizing and taking kind of the advantage of that CMHC program?
Yeah, I just like want to point out here that it's very obvious to me that great deals are made in either the price or the terms. And so it looks like you guys found a really great way to maximize the value of this deal through the terms. And
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing. Like, I think a lot of investors could be separated into highly analytical people and then the action takers. And there should be some Venn diagram of like where you're at as an effective investor should include both of those things where you need to be able to find the deal inside either the price or terms that you're looking at. And then there's the actually taking action part, right? Which is looking at the deal and thinking, okay, I can charge for parking here. I can go to the tenants and ask if they want improvements for consideration, right? I can go and I can add functionality to the building, whether that's laundry, dishwashers, extra bedrooms. I can maximize its current highest and best use and like bring those units up to that state. there's also just the element of just picking up the phone, right? Like how many buildings are we actually looking at to arrive at a property where we can quickly napkin math it out and say, hey, I think there's something more to look at here. Let's see how we could make this deal work, whether that's in the price or the terms. And I think that's a really important thing to understand is like great deals are really not just laying around, because there's a lot of money chasing very few goods when it comes to great deals. And so great deals are made. And a lot of it has to do with taking action and not getting bogged down in the details that like right away, I can see there's going to be a critic here that is going to comment something like, oh, 45-year AM, oh, 5% down, right? Oh, low income or affordable income rent, affordable rents. Like I can see the critiques of those things, but you need to understand that like I think you'd be really hard pressed to go to your boss today or even inside your own small business, however you make your money, and say, I want $100,000 raise for the next 10 years, right? I think that's a really difficult ask to make. And I don't know anybody that could do it. I don't think you're going to walk up to your CEO, or maybe you are the CEO. I don't think you can just increase your salary by 100 grand. But this is one way you could make this deal work so that it produces 100 grand of equity over the next 10 years. And again, I think it relates a lot to that time preference. And I think it relates a lot to actually taking the action without discounting the analytics. I mean, you need to know that the numbers will work. But I think there's a really nice Venn diagram there about the action taker and the analysis paralysis guy who's just spreadsheeting this out and going, 45-year AM, I'm never going to pay it off. It's like, well, that's not really the point, right? The point was adding $1 billion of value of low-hanging fruit, right? And so, and that was assuming a bunch of things. You guys were really charitable there, because that's assuming the rents never went up, right? That's assuming inflation didn't impact the appreciation just naturally. That's assuming like affordability and just generally speaking, the market didn't do you a bunch of favors, and you didn't add like additional utility to the building and the property. So anyways, guys, I think this is a really fantastic look at, again, just something I've talked about so many times about finding great deals is about making either the price or the terms work, right? Because if the price per unit was so low that you could just go in and do a bunch of work and the building's automatically double
100%.
its value, fantastic. But that never happens, right? So you need to find it in the terms, whether that's how you purchase it, the financing terms that you get with it, the different ways that you can add value to it. I think there's a lot of ways to make great deals work. So Zach, thank you so much for sharing those tips on a real building, right? And it's not often we hear $6 million purchase, 5% down, cash flowing day one. That's a tough tagline to beat.
Yeah, well, and like you said, it was like we made the deal in the terms. It was because it was very clear that the deal for this specific, the seller, the building, the situation. It was very clear early in the negotiations that it wasn't going to be on price.
Right.
And it rarely is.
It's almost never, actually, in my experience.
Right? The only time it's gonna be on price for this size of building is personal direct connection or distressed seller, and you get a little lucky because you're first to the plate.
Yeah.
And you got cash you can close quick. Like, right? So those scenarios are much more rare. And just in saying that, like such a good segue to finding deals. And I want to preface this by something you just said about kind of that analysis paralysis, analyzer, and the action taker is I think it's really hard for a lot of newer investors to really truly like identify what they're going to be as the investor, because it's just very difficult to do it all. Once you kind of get, if you guys are out there, you got your primary residence, you got one, maybe two or three investment properties that you've been doing on your own, like that's kind of close to capacity for a lot of people in terms of like, you have a bad month or two, a lot of tenant turnover or a lot of problems, or you're crazy with work or the personal life gets crazy. All of a sudden, it's very easy for the seams to kind of really get stretched. I know because I've been there, as most investors have been there multiple times in their careers. So I think it's really important for people to be very critical of themselves and like, hey, am I going to be the person actually finding the deal? Or am I better to analyze it and manage it after? And so a lot of people come to us to help them find deals, which is great. But like, if you're like, hey, Zach, I'm a full-time investor, or I want to be a full-time investor, like you have to know how to find your own freaking deals, right?
Yeah.
Like that is a big value as an investor, is being able to find your own deals. That is a really good way to either get favorable price or favorable terms or both, or just to get the opportunity in the first place. So I think for those of you that are considering like adding to your portfolio or even like starting a portfolio, starting with a smaller deal where you do everything isn't a terrible idea because you learn everything. But if you guys out there are looking to scale your portfolio, I think you should really critically look at like, hey, am I going to be doing everything for these bigger deals or am I going to be a part of it? And like, we work with partners for deals like that all the time. People have approached us to partner as well, or even start from some level of mentorship and coaching because they are fairly complicated. But being like very critical with what you bring to the table, what you're good at, and what value you can bring to a deal is going to really help you focus on where you can actually find good deals or really make money and build wealth in real estate. So just like we're going to rhyme these off and then we're going to get into some market stats, guys. MLS, we actually first found that deal on the MLS. Ha ha. On market, baby. Networking also. Networking can encompass kind of these other ones, but like joining Facebook groups, going to meetups, going to networking events specifically for real estate investors. There are a ton out there. Yes, it is time consuming. Yes, you're probably going to have to drive. Yes, you're going to go to 10 networking events and 5 of them are going to suck. But like, this is a volume game. You may meet somebody one time that just by chance was thinking about selling one of their own properties and it's a perfect fit for you. And you wouldn't have known that if you didn't go to the freaking event or you didn't ask questions or you didn't join the Facebook group, right? Another great one, a little bit trickier, other real estate agents. I network with a shitload of other real estate agents because it's easy for me. Hey, my name's Zach. I work with this brokerage. I'm a real estate agent and investor. I've been in the business for a decade. I have other clients that look at these types of deals. We look at these types of deals. We are qualified and we are serious. Here's our criteria. Do you have anything? I see that you sell these types of deals. Do you sell a lot of them? Was this a family friend? Do you have any more? I'm in the business and I'm qualified. Talk to me. Now, you're just a stranger off the street that isn't in the business. You maybe need to be a little bit more elegant than that, but other agents do have access to other investors and other deals. And then other investors. Most deals are investor to investor.
Literally
Talk to other
most.
real estate investors. Holy shit,
Yeah.
crazy idea, Adam. Direct to seller and wholesaling. Like we do direct to seller as well. As people in the business who are working with clients looking to acquire specific properties, we approach people direct to seller. And then there's wholesalers. Guys, these are all just different sources of deals. Like this is most of you know this, Adam, right? Most of you people, whether you're experienced or just starting investing, this is where you kind of find deals. But here is the pro tips. And this is what will separate people who are actually going to take action and get some deals this year and those that don't. Is give people clear criteria. If somebody gives me vague criteria, I know they're not serious. I'm not sending them deals. End of story.
Yeah.
Because if I'm sending somebody a deal, I want to know what they think about it and I want to know that they may actually want to buy it. If they're not qualified, if they don't know what they want, it shows that they're not qualified. Straight up.
Yeah.
Because they just don't know what they want. And that's okay. If you are an investor out there and you don't know what you want, start analyzing deals and start being critical about what you want 5 to 10 years from now. Right? And then Adam, another thing too is how many times do you send deals to somebody and you never hear back from them? How do I
Yeah.
know if this was anywhere close to the type of deal that makes sense for you? For all I know, you didn't even get the message or you just hate this deal. Well, you hating that deal doesn't really give me enough information to make sure I send you the right deal. So if people are sending you deals and you legitimately want to make an acquisition in the next 6 to 12 months, send them feedback. I try very hard. I'm not going to say I'm 100% of the time because I see a shitload of deals. I try very hard to give feedback on every single deal somebody sends me. Wholesaler, other investor, even if it's I don't have time to look at this deal right now. If I do and I get to it, I will send you my feedback. Bare
Yeah.
minimum. Because that tells them, oh, well, he's serious, but he doesn't have time to deal with this right now. Okay. The worst thing you can do is ghost somebody who's gone out of their way to send you deals. If somebody says, hey, Zach, I want a cash flow positive property in Waterloo Region. Well, shit, Adam. So does everybody else and their grandma. And with enough money down, everything will cash flow. So why don't we just get
Yeah.
another layer of specification on that real quick? And you tell me what type of financing you have, how much capital you have to put down. Are you managing it yourself? Have you run numbers on any deals? What metrics do you want aside from making at least $1 positive every month? So I just want the pro tips there are just so much more golden than just where you're going to find the deals is be very clear, follow up with your lead sources and give them feedback. Somebody gives me feedback, I know they're serious. I'm willing to send them
Yeah.
other deals or work harder to find them a deal. Plain and simple.
Yep.
Right? So, I
Yeah.
mean,
The
and
other, the
you're
only other thing I'll add to this is pick up the phone. Like Literally, the pro
Sorry,
tip
yeah,
number one,
I
pick
didn't
up the
think I had
phone.
to remind people of that.
No, but you do. Like, it's actually a really damaging thing, right? People think that they join a list or they sign up for something and they get like a bazillion emails. Bro, just pick up the phone. Like, actually have a conversation with somebody, actually sit down with them, actually let them see your face. It could just be Zoom, I guess, but like this type of interaction, the media richness of actually seeing somebody and relating to them on a personal level is incredibly important when it comes to what type of service that you'll actually get from them. And like, where you're at in terms of being top of mind. Like, I think that's a really important thing that people just don't give enough credit to. Like, if you really want something, make yourself known, state your intentions, right? Be clear. You can't just say, I want a cash flowing property in Southwestern Ontario. Like, that just doesn't work because, like, now I don't trust you, right? So give me a reason to trust you. Tell me why I should send you what I should send you, and let's actually have a real conversation about how we execute your long-term plan, right? And I think that's a big deal too. I think everybody's focused on today's deal, when I think the more important thing to do with your power team is to really follow up with them in terms of like, what's my long-term plan here and how can we set the stage so that that actually gets executed over a 5-year, 10-year program.
Yeah, that's scary though, because that's a lot of work and there's a lot of unknowns. So I find that a lot of people are really scared to go down that path, whether it's in their own head or out loud to other people that, they may not know that well. But at the end
Fair
of the
enough.
day, like you do it or don't. And if you don't, nothing's gonna happen. So just fucking do it. Like it's hard, it's
But
scary, but
the reality
doing
is, if
nothing
you
is too.
can't tell me your goals, I don't trust that you've thought your goals through, right? Like, if you can't say it out loud, I don't think you have the conviction to do it. And so there's
100%.
the reality.
100%. I mean, we're life coaches now too, Adam. Holy shit.
Well,
All right.
whatever.
Quick hits for those of you that wanted to skip to the end of the video, wanted the quick hits for Waterloo Region real estate. I think the overall sentiment right now, we are a week off of the Snowmageddon, act of Jesus himself levels of snow. I think combination of uncertainty politically, uncertainty internationally, a very poor economic outlook, and a shitload of snow is really keeping people out of the real estate market right now. I'll wrap that into a ball, and we're gonna likely see a fairly timid spring. Everybody's hot and horny at the end of last year in 2024, thinking, oh, this is gonna be the year we rebound. We're gonna see 5, 10, 15% jumps. I don't think so. So heading into February and into March, volume of sales down, amount of listings, supply of listings up a little bit, right? So all homes total sales are about 18% under our 10-year average. Pardon me, I put a little asterisk beside condo sales, Adam. 30% less condo sales compared to the 10-year average in January. And I expect
It's
the same
wild.
number to hit in February. Kicker, so did some digging. Only 5% of condos listed in the last 90 days have actually sold. So if you're selling a
Dang.
condo, you probably 5 to 7% sale rate because some of those condos are going to be taken off, relisted, then sold. So the data is going to be a little skewed. So, you want to give yourself a shred of hope as a condo sale, price it to sell, make sure it shows 10 out of 10, and you're probably going to end up taking less than you originally expected because there are going to be other condo holders that are more motivated than you, i.e., if I don't sell this now, I'm not making this mortgage payment and I'm screwed. So there is an element of that. We're not seeing a ton of repo sales. We're not seeing a ton of power sales. Like that's not flooding our market by any means. Are there more than there were 5, 6, 7 years ago? Yes, absolutely. But we're not seeing that sway the market's volume or sale price dramatically yet. But we are seeing the motivated sellers, especially in the condo space, they're cutting prices. So average sale price across the board down 1% year over year. Detached homes 882, semis 634, townhouses 630, and condos 469. Now, I got some interesting data for the multi units. So there's 110 listings in all of Waterloo Region considered multi-units. So this won't include, a duplex that's listed as a single family home
Yeah.
or a multi-unit property that they're selling it as a building lot, as a vacant land lot or something like that. This is just stuff that is classified and listed as multi-units on the MLS.
Yeah.
110 listings, 24 sales. So we're 21% sale rate. Much higher than condos, yippee. but very few properties are actually selling. And there's only 6 multis that are selling above $1 million. There
Wow.
was about 2 or 3 sixplexes, a couple fourplexes, and then a snazzy owner-occupied triplex in a sexy location in Waterloo. Shout out John Street. So the the matrix of prices to rents to financing is just killing us, right? You investors out there that are listing your properties, a vast majority of you want too much money compared to what rents they're generating and what the current financing options are for people buying. So an exercise that I do with people that say, hey, Zach, I want to sell my property. I say, okay, great. What do the numbers look like with 20% down in current mortgage rates?
Rough.
Okay, now what
For
about,
a lot of people.
yeah, do that math for me real quick and
Yeah.
then let me know what you want for it. Because what a buyer is going to do is they're going to look at all the other sales and then they're going to say, great, with my 20% down, what do the numbers look like on this? Because they want to do exactly what I want to do. And what we referenced earlier in this video is I want to buy this property and be cash flow positive with the least amount of cash into it. So can I be cash flow positive with 20% down? If yes, all right, we should be looking around selling around that price point. Maybe you can adjust up if there's upside or if it's premium location or premium features. But motivated and creative sellers will sell. Everybody else is getting nothing, absolutely nothing. So if you guys are looking to purchase multi-units, you're looking to sell multi-units here in Waterloo Region, like our market is in a weird spot. Let's just call it what it is. Sellers are really thinking, oh, interest rates coming down, buyers are going to be bringing heat. Buyers are thinking, wow, there's a lot of uncertainty in this market. If I don't find a home run deal this month, I'll just wait for another month or two because I don't think prices are going to go up for the next 30, 60, 90 days. So where this leaves us is I think you need to be creative. I think you need to look at a lot of deals. And I think you need to be very shrewd running your numbers so you can do what Adam referenced earlier, quick napkin math on 20 deals to go view 1 or 2 of them. Because the reality is finding good value is very difficult, plain and simple. And we
Yep.
don't have the benefit of free money yet to give people the cushion to take on more risk or to pay a higher price or to take on shittier terms. It's just not there yet. So investors out there, I'm getting a lot of people reaching out, asking for valuations, asking about how to optimize. Is it going to be a good time to sell in the next couple of months? Those are all really good questions, but giving specific advice takes a little bit of information and time. So don't try and cut corners. Have a serious conversation, whether it's with myself or anybody else, about what you're working on, and then make an educated decision, right? Like we get to come on here for an hour or so and chop it up and share as much info as we can. But most real estate is like hyper specific to your situation and your type of asset. So
Yeah.
don't be a stranger. If you have questions about your portfolios, do I have my info here? No. Oh, I got some stuff I'll leave up here. But I kind of want to wrap this up. Was like people that are planning to make moves, have that specific conversation. Like I said, the last point I'll cover, Adam, is the details matter more than they have before. Buyers have
Yeah.
choices. Whether you guys
Yep.
are buying a single family home, you're relocating from the GTA, you want to buy your first investment property here because there's value in Waterloo Region. Like all those things are true, but like buyers have choices. So if you're a seller, the details matter. And if you're a buyer, the details matter too, because you have options. You don't need to consider, or you don't need to compromise as much as you may have a few years ago just to make a deal work. You have a few options. So does that mean that Uncle Zach's going to be showing way more properties this year? Yeah, because we're going to have to look at a lot more stuff to find a really good deal. That's part of the business. That's part of being an investor. You gotta look at a ton of deals to find a great one. You gotta look at a ton of homes to find the right home, right? So I don't think that I just think that there's still a disconnect in the market between the buyers and the sellers. And we're slowly, very slowly getting to a point where buyers and sellers are kind of getting on the same page, but we still haven't found that yet here in Waterloo Region. So until then, if you guys enjoyed the video, I appreciate your time here. Adam, it was fun going through that big deal. I'm happy to field questions on that, whether it's in the comments or people want to send me a direct email. But I have a ton of fun coming on here and chopping up with real estate. So it was a good time.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming back, Zach. I really appreciate your insights into buying a $6 million property, 5% down, cash flow positive, day one, leveraging a really cool CMHC product. And if you guys are just hearing about that for the first time, go do your research on that. I think that's a really cool tool and something that everybody should be aware of. And I think my key takeaways for this was, pick up the phone, make more calls, make more connections, make it clear what your intentions are with those connections. And then don't be afraid to ask, right? Whether that's about a price or terms that you can work on inside any deal. And also, if you're optimizing your current portfolio, don't be afraid to ask your tenants, right? I've had great success just asking my tenants, hey, would you like this additional functionality, or would you like these updates, and would you be willing to pay more for it? And Ontario has these beautiful forms that you can fill in to increase your rent greater than the rent increase levels that are controlled in Ontario. And all you have to do is get an agreement in place with your tenant to do so. And I've had great success with that. People want to live in nice places. They want to live in a place where they can do their laundry and do their dishes inside their home. And a lot of people are willing to pay for that, especially when they've been there for a long time and they know they're paying way under market rent. People are reasonable. And I think, just in conclusion, I'd like to wrap this video up by saying your tenants are just people, right? You're people. You talk to them like human beings, not assets. And you can get some really great results from doing so. So, Zack, I appreciate your insights today. And while this is obviously about making money, this is a business venture that most people are entering when it comes to these larger deals and commercial
100%.
ventures. We're still dealing with people. That's the number one thing inside these businesses. It's a people-to-people thing. So don't be afraid to have conversations. And Zack, we'll see you back here next month, and we'll be talking more about spring.
Hell yeah! We'll
hopefully
get
less
the spring,
snowmageddon.
Snowmageddon is done with. We're on to the spring,
All
and I
right.
can't wait. Thanks, Adam. See you guys soon.
Awesome. See you next month.